Hello? I think we got a bad connection. Oh, there you are. Hi, this is John G. Yeah. Oh, hey, hi, what's up? What do you mean, where am I? You know where I am. I'm at the restaurant. No, of course I'm exhausted. I didn't ask for this. Now, come on. I asked for a successful restaurant. I didn't ask for 20 years. Really? Really? I think it's cruel and unusual punishment to have someone own a restaurant for 20 years. Well, then let's just agree to disagree. Hey, God? My hubby's calling in. I'll get you later, all right? Hello, sweetheart. Why is everybody asking me? Yes, I'm at the restaurant. Yes, I'm in the auditorium right now. Turn around. Yeah. I see them. Uh-huh. 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 Yeah, okay, all right, I got it, okay? Goodbye, sweetheart. Ladies and gentlemen, John Shields has asked me to mention a few things before we get started. First, please turn off or silence your cell phones. However, he did say you may record the program if you wish, if you promise to get him from his good side. Now, we are recording this program, and so we're going to do a few practice drills for audience participation. This is being streamed onto Facebook Live right now. I am so sorry. It's been a hectic day. I've already forgot what my sweetheart told me to tell you. But we are lying. We are streaming this on Facebook, and some of you may not be aware of what streaming and Facebook Live is, because I'm looking around the room. However, okay, we won't go there then.
They're your friends.
All right. I already forgot everything. All right, well, let's get started. Let's get started with cue card number 1, because I've forgotten what I was supposed to tell you. Cue card number 1. All right. I'm very impressed. Thank you very much. That is very good of you. I do want to mention there are many people watching this at home, including one Miss Gail Gilligan of Glenview, Illinois. Hi, Mom. Love you. That's for you, Mom. All right. Let's try. You guys did so well in the first one. Let's try number 2. Cue card number 2, please come out. That was awesome. And Joe, they're laughing with you, not at you. Just like the United Nations. I thought I was in Baltimore. All right, you guys are doing so well. We're going to go for number 3. You guys up for number 3? Yeah. All right, let's bring out number 3. All right, that wasn't so good, guys. I just remember what I was supposed to tell you earlier, and it's already too late because you guys have already been clapping, but I'm not going to let this joke go to waste. So, what I was going to tell you, if you have a drink in your hand, because the BME is graciously allowing us to have drinks here tonight with lidded cups, you can put them down on a stable surface, whether that be the floor or on the head of the person in front of you. Because there are some stiff hairdos out here that make the perfect cup holder. Where's Joanne? I'm looking at Joanne and Izzy. All right, I think that's it. I forgot. Let's get started. Oh my gosh, I studied all my lines this morning. What? Oh, thank you. I was looking for you earlier. Hey, Matt, can you dim the house lights, please? Is that it? All right. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my honor to introduce our suave, debonair, handsome MC for the evening, who also happens to be an award-winning columnist, and he is our local prince of fake news. Baltimore's own Mr. Dan Roderick.
This event has a name. It's, let me put my glasses on here. Crab cakes, heartburn, and blue New Guinea. No, should have put the glasses on. Crab cakes, heartaches, and new beginnings. That's the name of tonight's event. And this is the storytelling part of the evening. So we're going to be telling stories about Gertrude and John and whatever else comes up here tonight. There's no way to predict that. But we have a great panel for you here. Friends of John and John, friend of the Johns, friends of Gertrude's. Let me tell you what to expect. Who's sitting with me at this wonderful old farm table that they brought in tonight. First, the director of the BMA, Chris Bedford. Sitting next to Chris is the multi-talented artist known as Joyce J. Scott. Joyce. Another friend of the Johns, Peter Jackson. The woman who keeps us all in Swiss chard for many weeks of the summers. From One Straw Farm, Joan Norman. A colleague restaurateur of the Johns, Irina Stein. And former director of the Enoch Pratt Library, the 14th Librarian of Congress, Carla Hayden. I guess I'll get started with my story first, okay? So I have a couple of stories to tell you. First of all, I met John Shields way back in 1990 when this book came out, the Chesapeake Bay Cookbook. You remember that, Johnny? You had really dark hair back then. Yeah. And he said he was going to open a restaurant in the Baltimore Museum of Art. This was several years later, but nonetheless, we had another conversation. John was a guest on my radio show, first on WBAL and then later on WYPR, but this was in the WBAL years. And he said, I need a name for this restaurant. And I said, well, tell me a little bit more about yourself. And he mentioned his grandmother, Gertie. I said, well, that's a good name. He said, yeah, but if I use it for a restaurant. I said, Gertie, huh? I said, you know in the Baltimore Museum of Art, there's the Cone Collection, which was assembled by the Cohn sisters, whose good friend was Gertrude Stein. I said, how about Gertrude's? This is a true story, ladies and gentlemen. And I even have proof that I named Gertrude's restaurant. John gave me a trophy years ago. It says, Gertrude's, name the BMA restaurant contest grand prize winner, Dan Roderick. And I prize this. And listen. It's not plastic. It's the... So I keep this around. I keep this right next to a plate that I won at the March of Dimes Celebrity Cook-Off in 1987. It says on the plate, it says Dan Roderick's best vegetable. So I got to tell you a story about the first time I met John. It was when this cookbook came out, and he was doing some publicity, and I had a radio show at night on WBAL radio. This is in the early 90s. This book was published in 1990. So I said, well, please come on the show. We'll open up the phones. People will call in with their crab recipes, and they'll compare notes on crab soup and crab cakes and crab fluff and all that crabby stuff. And it was great. People were calling in with, it didn't get tedious. It was fun. They were talking about different ways to make crab soup and comparing notes with John. This went on for an hour and a half. And I had a regular, I kept it going because it was so good. There were so many calls coming in. And it was a real Baltimore show, you know? Real Baltimore. And John's there with his Baltimore accent. You know, I've been in Baltimore 42 years now. And you know, once I got over the language barrier, everything was great here. So we had this one regular caller. Well, we had several regular callers, but one was Doug in Reservoir Hill. Hey, Dan, it's Doug in Reservoir Hill. I want to tell you and John, you know what? What, Doug? If you take chicken breast, right, and you pound it, and you cover it with crab meat, right, and then you broil it, you know what? I said, what? Tastes just like flounder. So let me get this straight. So you take about $7-8 worth of chicken breast, about $13, $14 worth at the time, crab meat, and you broil it, and you get something that tastes like $6.99 a pound flounder. Is that right? So, I'm just going to tell you this. So the next day I go to work, I'm at the Baltimore Sun, I was on Madison Street. Madison, in Guilford Avenue. I think it's Madison, yeah. And there's a car, and I'm waiting at the light, and this car makes the turn, and a guy in a pickup truck, his window rolled down, he yells, hey Dan, tastes just like flounder! And across the street from this Old Sun building, now the Old Sun building on Calvert Street, there's a fire department office, and I'm walking down the street for lunch, guy's smoking a cigarette outside the fire department and says, hey Roderick's, tastes just like flounder! And then I'm up in the Sun newsroom. Michael Hill was our TV critic and wine critic. He yells across the newsroom, tastes just like flounder! Those are my two stories. And now I'll turn it over to our other storytellers.
Good evening. I'm Chris Bedford, the director of the BMA, and I have to tell you that I feel a great loss this evening. I have no food jokes whatsoever for you. All those were incredibly compelling, and I clearly do not have a Baltimore accent or the capacity to even approximate one, not even vaguely. And also I feel slightly diminished by the fact that this is theoretically the BMA's auditorium, and clearly we don't pack the house like, well, we sometimes pack the house like this, but we don't have the kind of outrageous applause and laughter that's in this room. So I'm consumed by a little bit of jealousy. Clearly this evening is Gertrude's house, not the BMA's house, but maybe they're one and the same, and it's a great pleasure to be here. So I was thinking about what I might say, given that I only ever really talk about art and occasionally money or the relationship of art to money. And social change, of course. But I was thinking about the instrumental role that Gertrude plays in those three categories. So when I was interviewing for this job, which is only a short time ago, I was discussing what typifies the work of a museum director. So it's really the creative vision for the institution and the money to support it. So thinking about what I might say this evening, I realized that both of those things are very central to my experience of Gertrude's, as follows. So every artist that I bring to town, from Mark Bradford to Joyce Scott, who has been my... She's been drinking. That's my one food joke. That's my food joke. Thank you, Joyce. Every one of them I bring to Gertrude's, and very recently Tavara Strachan, who's the Bahamian-born artist that's responsible for the enormous neon on the front of the Pope building, said to me, you know, you spent a day trying to convince me to do this, but you really had me at the crab. And I thought, thank you, Gertrude's. I will also say that I have a routine table in Gertrude's at the rear right-hand corner, and I go there most days, so I may have the distinction of eating in Gertrude's over the last 2 years more than any other living human in this room. And the menu is so vast and complex that I never get tired of it. It's an amazing experience. But that is also where Claire Zamoski-Siegel and I go to sit and do our fundraising. So, so if any of you are in the room are inclined towards philanthropy, I would say do not accept any invitation to sit with me or Claire at that table, because you will leave a little lighter in the wallet than you did when you arrived at lunch, but the lunch will be free. So I was thinking the creative vision for this institution and the money to support it really happened in Gertrude's. That seems to be the lifeblood of everything that's driving us forward very ambitiously. So I want to say thank you both for everything you do to make it magical. And it really is. And it's a privilege to share space with you and be with you guys this evening. So thanks for having me. Ignore me.
Don't you love that I have the director of the museum working for me? Thank you, Chris. Don't sit down now. Thank you, Chris. I love you. I'm at the BMA with Johnny Times 2. I'm gonna sing a song that talks about what those two boys do. Misbehaving, and I'm saving all my crab cakes for you. You. Johnny Gilligan, he gave me my own table. That's because I know that they come in minks and sable. Ain't behaving, I'm saving all my love for you. Crab cakes, wonderful things, that's what the Johnnies do. I love being a person who shows their work at the museum because they love me too. I sit there late, I drink a lot, I have a lot of fun. I talk about my friends and not the Johnnies. I'm saving my love for Gertrude. We're ending now. I'm saving all my love for Gertrude. So the two Johns, Gertrude and I, really became close when I did my retrospective here in 2018. And I see that person out there, Doreen Bosia, who was the director then. Well, we worked in cahoots. They gave me all kinds of time where I could devise like menus for myself, and I went to them and said, Johnny Shields, Johnny Gilligan, you know I love martinis, and I've devised a martini. I have the gumption. Do you have the will? So we made what was called a Dictini. I'm very happy. Thank God we're all adults here. And Doreen still is like this. I don't find that very funny. So what we did was we took, I like Kettle One martini. Another drunk in the audience. We took a chubby little gherkin and we toothpicked two fat and glorious olives on the side. So we had a Dictini. I hope to receive one tonight. Another thing, John Shields came to me. You know, he used to have a TV show on MPT, like Southern Cooking. What was the exact name of that? Coastal Cooking, which meant that, you know, you were next to the more water and shucking clams and doing some bullshit. I don't know. So he asked me to come in, and all of my friends who are in the audience right now are like, you were cooking. The one thing that I remembered that my mother taught me was fried clams. So I came in early. I said, I will only do it if I have my own makeup person and if I can have a glass of wine. So I was the most fabulous African-American Eastern Shore cook. I had like fabulous makeup. I had on a schmata, I had on an apron, a glass of white wine, and I fried clams with Joe. Okay, I'm gonna get off the stage because they said 3 minutes. I don't know why with a song. This is what I want to say to you. Baltimore is a city that has a lot of nicknames. We're the Charm City, we're the city that kills everybody, we're all those names. But we're also a city that's filthy with artists and artist haunts. And one of those places is Gertrude, named after your mom, am I right? So I say thank you, Double John ×2, for giving me a place where I could come. Giving me a, well, come, you know, I'm talking about the other, like a ride. It's a dirty ass group here tonight. You know, I did comedy for years. Okay. I can't believe I just said that, because Doreen Bolger fell out of her chair and will never speak to me again. Johnny, thank you. Thank you. I mean, I would make menus up like for him. We made up a menu for some show I did. The two Johns have always been available to artists. They've always been really right around the kind of aesthetics of what art means. And so if there was something happening here at the museum, you do it. And I thank you for hopefully embracing Chris Bedford. Do you see Chris bring me out? He was like, no, and I said, get up, Chris, do that. We have many, many years, I hope, to come. Thank you, John ×2.
Move the microphone back. Move it back 3 feet. We can't see your face. Better. A little more.
How's that?
A little more.
Well, good evening. My name's Peter Jackson. I too have won a trophy from John Gilligan. It was not real metal or sterling silver. It was actually a pink unicorn stick pony. But that's another story that I'll get to. So I met John and John 8 years ago here at Gertrude's. I had a little startup at the time. It was called GiveCore, and we were trying to help local nonprofits raise money online, and we were enlisting local businesses to kind of help in our effort. And everybody basically told me that I had to get John Shields on board. His support of other nonprofits and the community of Baltimore was well known. Gertrude's was a highly regarded restaurant, so I basically cold called him. I wrote an email to mrcrabcake@gmail.com or whatever his email was at the time. And a few weeks later, I was here at Gertrude sitting down with John having lunch, and I'm telling him about what our idea is, and you know, we're supporting a bunch of different organizations, and John Shields is just in wholeheartedly. He wasn't just gonna sign up, he was gonna do more than any other restaurant or business had done before. He was gonna submit himself to having dinner with the highest donor. He was gonna give more, but that's just kind of the guy that John Shields was. And as we get to talking, it comes out over conversation that I'm a cyclist. So he says that, you know, well, you have to meet John Gilligan. So John Gilligan comes over, and shortly thereafter, I'm sitting there and having lunch with John G. and the Johnses collectively. And John tells me about this bike team that he's just started recently that raises money for Movable Feast. It participates in the 2-day bike ride from Ocean City to Baltimore every year. It's called the Rebels with a Cause. And there's a few rebels in the room, and inevitably all of you have received an invitation to one of our fundraisers. So, enthusiastically, I don't really know anything about this, but John and John convinced me, and I sign up, and I leave having gone in there to recruit Gertrude's and having actually been recruited for my first 100-mile bike ride instead. So, over you know, a lot of restaurants around town give to charity, and it's phenomenal. They participate in fundraisers, they give, they do whatever they can, they serve at their facilities, whatever it is. But John and Gertrude's, they don't just do that. They open their doors to this ragtag group of cyclists to come in there and host spin classes on the terrace of the BMA. Or for pancake breakfast after a 5-miler, or for our infamous annual keg party, which is where I received that pink unicorn stick pony a number of years ago. And in the process, they become really the springboard for that little group of cyclists, raising over $650,000 in the years since. To feed Marylanders living with HIV, AIDS, and other serious illnesses. That's what John and Doug and this whole team at Gertrude's really do. They open their doors to the community. So whether it's Movable Feast, whether it's the Oyster Recovery Partnership, whether it's House of Ruth, God, I don't even know. I could go on and on and on. But that's what they do, and they embrace the local farm, Charlottetown Farm and One Straw Farm, and some more organizations you'll probably hear about or sample the great food of later this evening. And it's that giving that they do, that embracing of the community, that the community comes back and they embrace them wholeheartedly in return. It's why, you know, a couple of years ago when executive chef Doug Wetzel suffered a pretty tragic incident during a triathlon and needed a liver transplant, that in less than 4 weeks, over 30 restaurants and over 400 of you, over 400 guests, probably many of you here tonight, came back out here to support him and raise over $40,000, and probably the shortest executed fundraiser of all times, much to John Gilligan's chagrin and stress and anxiety. So I work in real estate now, and so that means I'm well versed in overselling the importance of location. And I mean no offense to Chris here. You don't get to have 20 years that Gertrude's had just by being in the BMA and having a wonderful place to have brunch outside on the terrace. You get there by the people in the community that you build. And that's what John and John have done. They've really built a village here. So on behalf of Movable Feast and the innumerable other organizations that these guys have supported, both John, Doug, and the entire team here, I just want to say thank you to Gertrude for everything. Years more success ahead.
At first, I thought I'd be a little bit nervous, but I think I know half the audience here tonight, so this is more like talking to friends rather than having to give a speech. Gertrude's has been around for 20 years. I don't remember the first time I met John Shields or anybody from Gertrude's. I wish I did. I can tell you that there was a time we were at the farmer's market and the person next to me had just started. And John comes in like he always does with Doug and the wagon to come pick up all the produce he needs for the week. And I hear this, "Oh my God, there's John Shields. Oh, he's my hero." She was swooning like a teenager looking at the Beatles. I kid you not. So Pam, obviously I had to introduce them, and you will find goat cheese on their menu from now on. I don't know if it was the swooning or the adoration or anything else, but they are now, I think, best friends. Sorry, John. So this has been years. So this was long ago enough. 20 years is a long time. You don't remember things from 20 years ago. I do know that my parents were working for me at the farmer's market. I think they thought John came to just see them because their conversations would go on forever. They liked him so much, they had their 50th wedding anniversary here at Gertrude's, which I think is pretty special. The next thing, I don't usually tell people this because it's kind of private family business. Everybody has a name that their mother called them. Guess what my mother called me? Gertrude. Nobody knows, I mean, most people don't know that. My siblings don't even remember that, but my mother's like, "Of course I called you that. Why would I not call you that?" So we've had a lot of conversations on that direction. But in thinking about this speech, it occurred to me that Gertrude's is our oldest restaurant customer. I didn't realize that until today. As I'm going through things and I'm thinking about it, I'm thinking about the chefs I've worked with over the time. And there's chefs and then there's restaurants. And chefs go through many restaurants and change and do things that chefs do. But Gertrude's hasn't changed in 20 years. I have to tell you, that's amazing. From a farmer, and to have a relationship with somebody for that many years is truly, truly a blessing. Let's see, now I said, I'm not supposed to talk about John, which is fine. And you know, we both know both Johns are charming, they're gracious, they're beautiful, good looking, all those wonderful things. But there's a lot of people behind Gertrude's that are not just them. There are servers and dishwashers, and we never get to see them. But I am as grateful to them as I am to the Johns for all that they do to make produce look wonderful and feed all of you when you happen to attend. So once again, we all may know that, in case you didn't know, Gertrude sources a lot of its produce and meat and fish and goat cheese from local farms, right? But you have to remember, they started doing this 20 years ago. They were the first. They were one of the first people to start buying local. And they did that because they believed in the Chesapeake, they believed in Baltimore, they believed in all of these things that were wonderful and good. And I can't thank them enough for everything they have done for any farmer they've ever bought from any fishery, from any oyster that's been eaten. All of you are eating the best that they can possibly offer you because they believe in Baltimore, they believe in the Chesapeake region, and they believe in all of you. So if you happen to be at the farmer's market on Saturday morning in Waverly, at about 7:15, you will first shows up generally Doug's parents. I gotta tell you, John and Doug are a little bit behind. All of a sudden, Doug will come running up and he's got a wagon. And when they leave, that wagon is full of produce that's going to be used at Gertrude's for the week. But they also have special events. And we do things with them where they do, it's called Kraut Fest in January. So they're thinking ahead from the cabbage we have in November. they start making sauerkraut so that you have it in January. Now, I really want to buy tickets to the kraut making contest where you get to wear like bags on your feet and step on the cabbage in the bowls. I think I want to do that. So it either looks like way more fun from the pictures they're taking, or they do a really good job of commissing me into wanting to do this nasty job. That probably is horrible. I'm not quite sure on that one. Anyway, the Gertrude's itself shares its love of the Chesapeake through all the things that they do, through the people they feed, from things like cookbooks. There is the special fundraisers for things that they do for anyone who asks, from the fact that they feed you and in the menu that they serve. I want to thank Gertrude's for the 20 years of incredible friendship and love that I have shared with you all these years. And I can't wait for the next 20. Now that I've thought about it, I can't wait. Thank you very much.
Good evening. My name is Irena Stein, and I'm a friend of John and John since the beginning of the year 2000. And I'm extremely honored to share our story with all of you, because it's been so many years of friendship, but especially I wanted to talk, John and John equals Gertrude, Gertrude equals them. So it's very hard to talk just about the restaurant. So if I mention one, I'm meaning the other one as well. But I met them at our dear friend Gerard Miguel. Gerard, I think I saw him somewhere, bonjour. And we always used to have dinners together at their house for years and years and years, and we always used to sit together. And after September 11th, I was in the arts for many years. After September 11th, the arts kind of had really hit a very low moment, and decided, because I cooked a lot and loved cooking, that I wanted to go into food. And the friends were saying, you gotta cater, you gotta cater. So anyway, I didn't know how to start, because I had recently moved to Baltimore from San Francisco, so I didn't know many people. And it so happens that it was the end of the year, and the pastry chef at Gertrude's got ill. And John calls me and said, would you please help us out with Christmas cookies? And I said, okay. We were doing many other things, and so we start like that. And there's this other chef that tells me, can I do cookies? And I said, you never know where cookies can take you. So anyway, we did all these wonderful cookies, and the pastry chef unfortunately stayed ill, and so I worked in their kitchen for 3 months. And so during that time, I was able to learn industrial kitchen, which is a complete other phenomenon, than working for your friends. And I remember very much one day he comes, so John comes, says, Irena, I know where you're going to open a place. You have to open a place at the Space Telescope Science Institute. What? I wanted a place, but I wanted a place with 4 little tables, because I was kind of shy and I didn't know exactly what I was doing, for big crowds. Turns out I ended up there because the European Space Agency wanted good food, and I was raised in many places in the world, and we ate all the time healthy food. So now it's been 14 years that we're feeding astrophysicists, and our kitchen is right below the future James Webb telescope, which will be going just a million miles up. So it's very different than the Hubble telescope. And all those wonderful, and that wonderful community of NASA and the international community of astrophysicists, we're there, and we have the honor of feeding them. Again, it's a link to them. And I wanted, when I was thinking about the whole history, is how important it is to think about our relationships that we have with our communities as a weaving process. Because when you think about your life, you think on how your reality and your life came about with all the weaves, which are all the people that are surrounding you. And they're particularly, what I loved about them and John was the humanity behind everything they do. I think they, all mentioned that humanity. So because of that, I was able to open this place there, which we've enjoyed for 14 years. Then we moved on to another cafe, the Humanities, which is, my sensibility completely at Hopkins. And then most importantly, lately, after that's been established in a completely captive audience and a community that we love at Hopkins, I decided that I wanted to thank the city of Baltimore by opening a restaurant, a Venezuelan restaurant, since I'm from Venezuela. And I thought it was just going to be a simple arepa bar, and it turned out to be Alma Cocina Latina. Some of you know this restaurant. So now the weaving now is related to my country of origin. So now there's Baltimore and Venezuela in this reality of mine of daily life. So we created Alma Cocina Latina. And when I think again of it, I see it, I was telling my husband, it's like a weave, like, it's not a quilt because we don't have quilts in Venezuela and we don't have, you know, warm things, but it's like hammock. And John is holding it in one end and I'm holding it on the other end. And in the hammock are all these people that we've been able to feed through all our communities and our spaces, thanks to that beginning here. It's amazing. So I just wanted to, I didn't want to forget this part. I was wanting to say that because of this opportunity, Baltimore has discovered Venezuelan food as well as its culture. Unfortunately, we only hear the bad news in the press, but it's truly a wonderful country. And because of that, we've had a new wave of immigrants coming to Baltimore to study, you know, from Venezuela to study with our chef, and then establishing themselves in different restaurants here. So that is amazing when you have a whole immigration happening, you know, which is a very sensitive situation right now, so it's great. Because of this opportunity also, I think a lot of you have discovered arepas. The arepas started actually at Azatlan. And it's become a very popular place, and now we have two places in Baltimore eating arepas as well. So all of this, it's an amazing story on how a kind gesture and support of a human being can affect so many people, because now Alma is also geographically in the spot internationally because of the kind of food that we do there, contemporary food from Venezuela. It's the best Venezuelan restaurant in the country. And all of this, I mention it because you never know what one gesture in your life can give to someone that will multiply and have a tremendous effect in our communities and our society at large. So thank you so much for all the opportunities and your friends.
Nothing warms the heart of a librarian like a true lover of history. And certainly nothing warms the heart and soul of a guest at Gertrude's as being with the two Johns. I first met John Shields as the new director of the Edith Pratt Free Library. And I observed, and I wrote this down, a handsome and earnest man in the closed Edgar Allan Poe reading room, alone, literally devouring books from the library's rare culinary arts collections. Cookbooks from long ago with simple and exotic regional recipes, menus from famed Baltimore culinary clubs, and more. But I had to know who he was because the librarians were thrilled to report that someone wanted to see this rare and rather scholarly collection that wasn't used so much. So I went in and I met John Shields. And he was warm and open, and we talked about culinary treasures and Edna Lewis and all of these things, and it was just wonderful. I learned about the Pratt's collection from John, and then came Gertrude's, the personal side. A place that became a special occasion place when relatives and guests would visit from the Midwest. We would talk with John G. too about not having shame about driving to the Midwest. This is an inside joke. Your mom, John, knows. And the warm atmosphere that reflected the personality of the two Johns. It was a place that I could have therapy sessions with my dear friend Doreen. It was a place that I knew that birthdays would be special. And then, though, when my mom moved from Chicago, it's just the two of us, an only child, it was the place that we went for Mother's Day. And John, who I think, you know, there's that saying, brother from another mother. And she's sitting right next to him now, and she wanted to sit next to John. Would make that Mother's Day and every Mother's Day, the last 10 years, so special. He'd have a flower for her. He'd pre-order and knew she wanted the sundae with caramel and chocolate on the side. And he would talk to her. And he made her feel that she had family. So I just want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for making Gertrude's our home away from home. And when I asked my mom, I said, well, what would you like me to say? Because she said, I don't want to say anything. I don't want to say anything, but I have to be here. And she's in the front row with John. She said, tell him that you are his personal librarian still, and that he has free access to, now in Washington, the world's largest collection of cookbooks. So, watch out, Gertrude, watch out, and John G., that it is rare, just like those culinary treasures, to find a place and people that combine to make the treasure that's Gertrude's. And she said, I just want everybody to know that Gertrude's is the true pride of Baltimore.
Ladies and gentlemen, John Shields. Come on up, John. Time to hear from Johnny.
Night. I would first, before anything else, like to thank everyone who came to tell these stories this evening. I am beyond belief. Oh my gosh. Now, I got complete instructions of what I'm supposed to do and not supposed to do. From our director, Marissa, and I have 32 seconds to do this entire thing. So, but you know what? I don't care. I'll do whatever I want to do. We can always have dinner for breakfast, right? We'll have it later. First, you know, I have to thank the city of Baltimore for embracing us all these years. I mean, this is my hometown, and I'm home, and I love it. And Gertrude's has been my life and the life for so many people. The first person I'd like to introduce in conjunction with that would be our amazing executive chef, Doug Wetzel. Doug, let's come up here and say hi. Doug's been with us for quite a while. Come on, Douglas. Douglas started out as a pastry chef at Gertrude's. He's a graduate of the Culinary Institute of America and Glen Burnie High School. Thank you very much. And Doug kind of took control right from the beginning. He started baking bread, baking pasties and everything, but he really just kind of saw what needed to be done, had so much enthusiasm, and he just kind of like took over. And over the years, he's taken over more and more and more and more, and now he is our executive chef. But you know, we're really just conductors. You know, I call myself, what am I, the culinary spiritual director? And we're really directors. That's all we do. And I'd like to introduce to you, sometimes we kid and call them that, but this is my family, my dear, dear family, my friends, the Crabettes, everyone who works at Gertrude's. Come on, say hello to us. This is who makes Gertrude. This is just some of the Gertrude's Crabettes. Not everybody is here this evening, but you can see it takes so many people to make such a wonderful experience. And these people are my family. And this is my mama, Mama Maria Cruz. And you will all be glad to see Mama's recipe in the new cookbook, the new Chesapeake Kitchen, her Mama Maria's Seafood Tamale. So as you can see, this is it. This is what makes the whole thing happen. I don't know what to say except that I'm humbled to have these people in my life every single day. They're the best. They're the absolute best. Now I think very soon they're gonna let us drink because it's been quite a day for us, hasn't it? Now you know I am probably the only person who paid any attention to Marissa except that I'm talking way too long. All right, guys. Thank you. Okay, so the idea of this evening was, right, crab cakes, heartaches, and new beginnings. All right, let's go back a little bit. This week, in October, 35 years ago, Gertie's Chesapeake Bay Cafe opened in Berkeley, California. I ended up out there for 20 years and took the food that I grew up on, the recipes from my grandmother and all my relatives and the people that I knew. I took them out to Berkeley. Who would think? But they loved crab cakes. So, long time, crab cakes were in my life. I grew up with them. They're out there. Then the big heart came, and I met my sweetheart, John Gilligan, out in Berkeley. That's 25 years ago. 25 years ago. And so he came kicking and screaming out to Baltimore with me, and we started the Chesapeake Bay cooking. He became set director, he was producer, everything with Maryland Public Television. We got that going, and then all of a sudden we thought, oh my God, we need a real job. And thus came Gertrude's. Doreen Bolger is here in the audience there. Doreen! When we came looking for a place, we heard that there was a space at the BMA, and we met with Doreen and talked, and she welcomed us, and we decided, let's bring the crab cakes back to Baltimore, which we did, and we've been slinging them for 20 years now. And then to do that, I had to have some partners in this business. And so my brother-in-law is here, I believe, George Davis, and my sister Patricia. My dear friends, Dave and Marla Oros. Is Eric here? Eric and Samara. Representing Dave is getting a new knee today. Let's give it up for Dave Oros. Dave, we love you. Because it takes a lot to make a restaurant happen, as I said. Heartaches, we've had a lot of heartaches. We've had challenges. Just being in the restaurant business can be a heartache. Things go bad different times. It's always challenging. And then we had a big heartache when Doug almost died. And he was in shock trauma for quite some long time, and we weren't sure if he was going to make it. But he did, and he's back, and that is a new beginning, is it not? We've had many dear customers and long time friends that we've lost over the years. So there are always heartaches. I think that's part of life. But there's always new beginnings, and that's the part I like. There's new beginnings, and at Gertrude's, there's new beginnings every day. I can't tell you how many people came on their first dates to Gertrude's. Maybe some of you here. First date. How many people have actually gotten engaged at Gertrude's? How many people here have gotten married at Gertrude's? We got them right here. People have had their babies, they bring them back for the christening at Gertrude's. So we have this constant new beginning here. And we also have new beginnings with our farmers every single day, every single week. And our watermen, because these are the heroes of the Chesapeake. They're the heroes of food. We were in a world where our local food economy was pretty much decimated, by big agribusiness. But in the last 25 years, what I've seen here, going to the farmers market and all the restaurants that are now opening and have embraced that and are working with all the local farmers and the local watermen, we're putting our money, and when you come here and you buy food and you eat food here, we're all putting money back into our local food economy, which is a beautiful thing. And so in conjunction with 20 years at Gertrude's, I somehow managed, with a lot of help from a lot of my friends that are here this evening and Johns Hopkins University Press, I got a new book finished, The New Chesapeake Kitchen. And it talks all about that local food economy and how we're rebuilding it and how we're making it all happen. But I guess most of all, I got to thank all of you. Because you are my friends, you are my family, and Gertrude's, I always look at it as our common table. It's Baltimore's great common table. You come there, you see people from every background, every socioeconomic group. Everybody all comes together around one place. And it is the most beautiful thing I have ever seen in my culinary career. So I thank you for that. You're amazing. And last but not least, before I let you eat, and I think most importantly, the person I really need to send my thanks and my love to is my husband, John Gilligan. John Francis, are you there? Come here to me. Come here to me. John Francis. The one that makes it all happen. He's the man behind the scenes who makes it all happen. So, without him, there's no Gertrude's. And are we happy we have him here tonight or what? Oh, yeah. We are so happy. We love you. And how about, did we give it up for Dottie and Al, who have been here for almost 20 years playing tunes every Sunday? Dottie Timberlake. Al Saunders.
Let's go eat now.
Oh, wait a minute. Dan has a special announcement. I'm going to get out of the way.
You can stay here, John. Just a couple of things. First thing, to celebrate John's legacy and commitment to this community, the John Shields Culinary Arts Internship and Scholarship Fund has been established. This is a big deal. $1,500 renewable scholarships for higher education in culinary arts or hospitality management, paid internships for junior and senior Baltimore City high schoolers. This new fund is supported by partners the Baltimore Community Foundation, College Bound Foundation, NAF's Baltimore Academy of Hospitality and Culinary Arts. They're all joining in and supporting this new fund. And so representatives from those organizations are here with us tonight because we're trying to raise some money. We have a goal of $100,000, 100 large, yes. But for now, tonight, the goal is 20,000, and we are halfway there. So did you know that? You didn't know that. So whatever you can do, folks, to help us reach tonight's goal or the goal in general, it would be greatly appreciated. The John Shields Culinary Arts Internship and Scholarship Fund. So. And then, I just add some closing comments, and then we can go have a party, okay? That there are a lot of reasons why people go to restaurants. They pick a restaurant based on a review, based on the food, of course, the ambiance, the atmosphere, word of mouth. Whatever gets them there. The bathrooms are great. The service is good. But, sometimes you go because of the ownership. Sometimes you go because you like the people who run the place. They make you feel at home. They make you feel comfortable. And, I'm looking back now 20 years and I'm thinking, we wanted Gertrude to succeed because we wanted John to succeed, right? Because John's there, and not because he might throw in a free cocktail now and then, right, on the house. That's why we wanted you to succeed, because in this, in a time of cynicism and icky stuff, as Joyce says, icky stuff in life, we wanted a nice guy to finish first, So I say, it's been great knowing you all these years. I thank you for your friendship on behalf of a lot of people, your generosity, your spirit, your Baltimore, born in Baltimore wit, what you've taught us about Chesapeake cuisine and all of that. And I'm no culinary expert, but I just want to add this, John. If you ever get stuck, a customer orders flounder, and you haven't got any, just remember, you take chicken breast and you pound it, and you cover it with crab meat, and you broil it. Tastes just like flounder.